we've got our Associate Dean for Student Affairs, Dr. Mindy Dew, to answer questions. Some of you may have lost your job and you may be worried about how are you going to pay for school or your books. So we're going to talk about that today. Some of you may be feeling overwhelmed and you may need to know, where can I get help to work through that anxiety through this pandemic? Our clinic director, Laura Greene, is here today, and she's going to help answer your questions about how to get some help. Some of you have asked us about postponing commencement. Well, those of you who are eligible to graduate this June, you're going to be able to graduate. It's only the ceremony that we're postponing, with the hopes to be able to gather again by the fall to celebrate together. I want you all to know your faculty and staff, they've been working around the clock to bring your courses into your homes. So I really want to thank everybody at the college for their hard work. Students, you've got one of the most committed and dedicated faculty and staff I have ever worked with. And I want you to know you are in good hands. Things may not be perfect this term, but they're going to get better. So we all plan to be very patient with you while you get comfortable with this new remote learning. Please remember, students, that you're the only reason we're here. You are our future, and we're going to do everything possible to help you get through this. So you tuned in today to get answers to your questions. So let's talk to our panel now. They're here to help you be very successful this term. First, I want to introduce Dr. Paul Jarrell, Provost and our Executive Vice President. Paul?
Great. Thank you, President Hamilton, and good afternoon, everyone. You know, it's hard to believe that it's only been a little over 3 weeks since we made the decision to move all instruction to a remote setting and to delay the start of spring term instruction by a week. In fact, we just had our first day of instruction on Monday, and it appears that we're off to a pretty smooth start. And this certainly couldn't have been possible without the dedication and support of so many people here at Lane Community College. Our faculty, deans, and directors have been working tirelessly to move material to remote offerings. Many thanks to IT and academic technologies departments who've been working around the clock really to be able to get technology and training into both students and faculty hands. Our student affairs departments have worked to streamline enrollment services and financial aid, and we've worked to bring support to students via Zoom conferencing, phone support, and lots of email efforts. I'd also like to thank, the public safety, facilities, and custodial departments who have been working to keep the campus safe and clean in efforts to minimize exposure risk to staff and students as they do have to come onto campus to obtain materials and supplies at the start of the term. So it really has been quite an effort by so many, and I'm glad that we're finally here off and running and working towards helping all of you students out there to meet your academic goals. I'm glad we had this opportunity today to address some questions from our students. Our goal is to make the experience this term as great as we could for any term. So as Dr. Hamilton mentioned, with us today, we have a few experts on campus to help out. We have our Associate Vice President for Student Affairs, Dr. Mindy Dew. She'll be able to field questions regarding areas that she's responsible for. We have Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Jennifer Fry. Also Associate Vice President for Career Technical Education and Workforce Development, Grant Matthews. We have our bursar present here, Matt Fadich, and Director of Financial Aid, Eli Herr. And we have Dean of Library and Academic Technologies, Ian Coronado, present to be able to help out in questions there. And also we have our Director of the Health Clinic, Laura Greene. Among all of us, we should be able to address any questions that you have. And again, we really hope that we can help facilitate the start of the term, provide you with all the resources you need to be successful. So let's get started and see if we can address some questions our students have. I believe we have our OER librarian, Maggie Wright, is going to help us with some questions. So Maggie, take it away.
Thanks, Paul. And
You're
thanks everyone who's joining us this afternoon. I want to just go ahead and get started. I also will point out, though, that there is an option for our attendees to submit questions in this live session, and I will be keeping an eye on those questions as well. So our first question is, I don't understand why we don't have 2 weeks as usual to drop classes?
Hi there, this is Dr. Mindy Dew, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Student Affairs. Thank you for joining us, and thank you so much for your question. So the last day to drop your class and still receive a full refund is Sunday following the first week of classes. And that's consistent with our regular policy, so that will go on as usual. You will still be able to drop your class all the way until June 13th, but that would not come with a refund. However, if you have a medical emergency or you have some other emergency reason why you needed to withdraw during the term, you are welcome to request a refund through the bursar, and that is through an email. It's a refund request at lanecc.edu, and just ask them for more information on how to do that. Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Mindy. Our next question comes from Emily, and Emily asks, what will happen for work-study students now that the governor closed schools for the rest of the year?
I can take that. I'm Eli Herr. I'm the Director of Financial Aid at Lane Community College. It's a good question. So if you are a displaced worker, that means that you can't come to campus. We will be paying you out your scheduled hours based on what you would have earned winter term, whatever the hours those were. We'll forecast that forward and pay you out a lump sum if you're unable to attend. If you are able to do your work-study job remotely and safely, you will still be considered to be a work-study student, and we will process your federal work-study in the normal manner with a timesheet. If you're wondering which kind of student you are, please contact your immediate supervisor who oversaw your position, and they can give you more information about when and how you'll receive your federal work-study dollars. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eli. Our next question is about the pandemic a little more broadly. And this person asks, what will fall term look like if the pandemic continues or comes back?
I'll go ahead and take that, Maggie. Thanks for the question. You know, our real hope is that you know, and our intention is that we should be able to offer courses in a normal fashion for fall 2020. I mean, we do realize that it is a changing landscape. Things tend to change daily, but our goal is that we should be functioning as normal as we can be in the fall. Keep in mind that fall term doesn't start until September 29th, so that does give us a significant amount of time for some of the restrictions that have been placed on us to subside, and perhaps we'll be able to open in a more a reasonable manner. We are working to increase naturally all of our online and hybrid offerings in the fall, and that will allow us to be able to be a little bit more nimble and provide access to courses that are necessary for students to be able to continue to progress with their studies. We are working, though, to develop contingency plans for fall term if there are any kind of modified restrictions, and we'll have those in place. In particular, courses that have lab activities or need hands-on certain equipment, we'll be able to maybe offer those in a modified way if necessary, that spreads that out over the course of the term in a different way, or reduces class sizes in some way to be able to maintain social distancing if that's still necessary. So hopefully we'll be back and functioning. We should have a normal, if not even somewhat enhanced set of offerings for fall. So we shouldn't be an issue, but if it is, we'll work to be able to address it as needed. And we certainly will have learned a lot from this term that will help us manage that transition a little bit more smoothly and in the best interest of our students.
Thanks, Paul. Next, we have a question in the Q&A. And this person asks, can the automotive technology differential fee be reduced or eliminated?
Hi, this is Grant Matthews, the Associate Vice President for Career Technical Education. That's a great question. We've been working very closely with all of our programs to look at the class fees and reduce or eliminate them where appropriate. Some of the classes will continue to use materials, and we'll have sessions when we're allowed to be holding live classes again in the summer. And we're anticipating that if your class still has a fee, those materials will be used at that point in time. Thanks for the question.
And Grant, I wonder if I could ask a little bit more detail about that one. Can you give us a sense that if a student has registered for a class and the class has moved into kind of a modified process for this term where some of those hours got pushed into a different term, are they going to be assessed a new fee, or will those fees and tuitions continue over on into that new term? If you could comment on that, that would be helpful.
That's a great follow-up. The fees will follow with them, so they will not be required to pay any additional tuition or fees to finish out those courses, even if we have to push the continued instruction to another term. So the fees will, whatever they've paid this quarter for the fees will stay.
Great, thank you.
Okay, next we have another question from the Q&A that's asking about Zoom and how much we're all using Zoom now that we've switched to this remote or virtual teaching and classes. And so this person asks, what would end up happening if Zoom crashes along with all the internet troubles that people have been having in terms of connection?
Maggie, I can take this. I'm Ian Coronado, and I'm the Dean of the Library and Academic Technology. And Zoom is a distributed program that works across many servers throughout the internet. And the likelihood of Zoom itself crashing as an application is unlikely, but what might be more likely to happen would be that it crashes on your computer or perhaps crashes on your instructor's computer. So some instructors are recording their Zoom sessions so that if you do lose the connection, you are able to go back later and review the recording. And if that's not the case, I would just make sure to talk to your instructor and explain that you did have an issue and to see if they have anything that they could follow up with.
Awesome, thanks, Ian. Our next question is about online classes. And this is a question that was submitted via email. This person asks, I've grown to really enjoy school online. Will there be more online courses this fall for those who have become accustomed to the format?
Thanks, Maggie, for the question. The answer simply is yes, and I would say that, well, first of all, I'm glad that the student is enjoying school online. It's a unique learning environment, that's for sure, and it takes a different skill set and support to be able to be successful there. And I think we've really looking at trying to address all of those. We've had a plan in place for a few years to grow our distance education offerings at Lane. Over the past 3 years or so, we've seen our online offerings go from about 10% of all of the courses that we offer to this term, well, and even prior to the remote learning, to about 30% or so online offerings. So we've recognized that as a direction that we could provide more access to students, and now that technologies are getting better and students are more comfortable learning in this online environment, we recognize that and are really trying to increase our offerings. Currently, what we're doing is looking to identify gaps, areas in programming and courses where we don't have a significant offering online to be able to better meet needs for students, and also look for areas where we have entire programs and certificates that we could move online. We have several of them now, but we're always looking for those gaps that would allow us to offer things in a way that a student could complete entirely online. In addition, we recognize, as I mentioned before, the unique kind of supports that students need to be successful in an online environment. So we've been working really diligently to address that as well, provide those kind of online just-in-time supports that are necessary for students to be successful. So yes, we are going to increase those offerings. That does not mean that we're going to not also have a similar level of offerings in traditional in-person classes. We recognize that students like to learn in a variety of different ways, but we are looking to really increase the online offering and have been very successful at providing development for both students and faculty in order to be effective online. So great question, and yes, look for more, and glad you enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Let's see. Our next question is about the Student Health Clinic and what the availability of the Student Health Clinic is for this term.
I am Laura Greene, Director of the Health Clinic at LCC. And yes, the Student Health Clinic is available. We have moved to a telehealth model for this term. So we're doing appointments by phone and by a HIPAA compliant version of Zoom. So for details on how to schedule an appointment or just to ask medical questions, or if you have a medical concern, you can look at the health clinic website for details with how to get in touch with us. We're also looking to expand our telehealth services, particularly into areas that we've identified as needs, such as behavioral health. So hopefully there will be more to come in that area through the term.
Thanks, Laura. We have another question from the chat asking, as it is now, at this point, do you think it is possible for campus to open again after spring term and begin normal services and in-person classes for summer term?
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, that's a great question. As I alluded to before, this is kind of one of those situations that seem to be changing daily. It does appear that all of the practices that not only the state of Oregon has put in place, but the country and actually the world that have put in place are doing good things to sort of reduce the impact of the current situation. However, we do know that with this particular virus that we'll be dealing with this potential recurrences of it, so we need to be prepared. Our expectation is that in summer, certainly sometime during the summer, we will be able to be back on campus. I do suspect that will be in some kind of modified settings so that we can still maintain social distancing to ensure the health and safety of our students and staff. But I do have the expectation that we will be able to return to campus and both complete the hours that might have got pushed over into summer term from this spring for those kind of hands-on activities that are required for students to meet competencies. But then also, I think that if we look at our summer programming, we do plan on having an enhanced summer programming to allow students that might have been displaced from their work, or our high school students looking to get ahead, or our own returning students looking to get ahead. We are looking to increase our offerings this summer, and we will have a significant number of online and hybrid courses this summer, just in anticipation of some modified restrictions to being on campus. But again, we fully expect and hope that we'll be able to be on campus for those hours of instruction that require that dedicated hands-on work with equipment and faculty. And that again is in a lot of our career technical education areas, health professions, some of the lab sciences. So our goal is to be back in the summer. We'll be, you can look for the summer schedule coming out real soon. And you should see an ample offering of courses that could be on campus and also continued in a hybrid and online fashion as well.
Awesome, thank you, Paul. I think that's a good segue into our next question that we received via email, which is, will there be late start classes offered this term? And if so, how does late start work?
Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Fry, and I'm Associate Vice President of Academic Affairs, and I'd like to address that. So late start classes, in the case of spring term, will be starting May 4th. These are classes that will be offered in 5 weeks, so from May 4th to June 6th. They do cover the full content of a class that would run the full term. So that does mean that students should expect to spend about twice as much time on that class during that 5 weeks as they would if the class was spread out over the full term. We will have classes in the area of arts, business, communication, health, Spanish, writing, and math. And so if this is something that is of interest to you, please check with your advisor and make sure that that's a good option for your overall educational plan.
Hi, I'm Matt Fadich. I'm the bursar and in charge of student accounts. And I'd just like to add that we recently added a payment plan that will stay open until April 30th. So if you are doing a late start class, you will be able to sign up for that plan, have a little bit longer to pay. You just need to sign up for it by April 30th. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt and Jennifer. Next, I would like to take another question from the Q&A. And this comes from an anonymous attendee who asks, I've read about privacy concerns with Zoom recently, with some schools in the US banning its use altogether. Are you making any efforts to find a more secure replacement?
Hi, Maggie, I'll take this one. So the version of Zoom that Lane has is the Zoom for Education product, where extra steps are taken by Zoom to help us abide by FERPA guidelines. In addition to that, we've been tracking these developments as they unfold with the news and are encouraged by the steps that Zoom is taking to secure the product. We have also been in communication with our statewide and national partners in education to just see what steps would be best to secure this. Our information and technology and academic technology staff have been working to secure our Zoom environment by changing some of the default meeting settings, and we've been working with our faculty and staff so that we can minimize those opportunities for disruption. I would finish with adding that students can help to make sure that they are maintaining a secure environment by updating their Zoom client or their Zoom app whenever it prompts them to do so. Thanks.
Thank you, Ian. Our next question has been submitted via email. And this question asks, why are we getting charged an activity fee when there's no school activities? That's a good question.
Hi, Maggie. I'll take that one. This is Mindy again. Thank you very much for your question. And I think it is one that we have been working on. So the student activity fees are voted on by the students on an annual basis for the entire year. And they go to support the workings of student government. They support places like the Learning Garden, which is they are a fee receiving student groups such as the Torch. We definitely support the Torch and many of the other affinity groups therein. So some of those groups are not going to be able to meet or do very much this particular term. So we called together the Student Activity Fee Committee, which again is comprised entirely of students. And they contacted all of our fee receiving groups. And each of those groups made choices and said, you know, we won't be able to do anything, or we will be able to meet, and we will be offering substantial interaction in these ways. And so the Student Activity Fee Committee recommended a reduction of 25% for the spring term. And so that was enacted already. So the fee has been reduced. Thank you again for your question.
Thanks, Mindy. Our next question comes from a student who is studying construction technology. And they say, much of what we learn is done through hands-on experience under the tutelage of the instructor. That's a really good word, tutelage. How is online learning comparable to practice in the shop? And will I be at a disadvantage when I try to find employment because I'm lacking that experience?
This is a really great question. Many of our career technical programs are addressing this very same question. While true hands-on learning environments are ideal for programs like construction technology, our instructors have been working really hard to create meaningful alternatives that can still help our students meet the learning objectives for each of the classes. And while the strategies vary a lot between programs, the instructors have been working really hard to make sure the students have the supplies, have the activities, and can practice the skills at home or engage in other types of high quality tutorials. In programs that we have determined that there are no real alternatives for the hands-on face-to-face, we are not having those classes run, and we've made arrangements to move those classes to another term or to other activities later in the year when those students can meet again. If your program is still offering classes, you can be assured that the instructors are working to maintain a high quality experience, and they are going to limit the impact for your workforce readiness. And I must say, I have been truly impressed by the work that the instructors and the staff have done to bring the classes into remote formats and still maintain the quality that you need as students to be successful as you work into the workforce.
I wonder if I could add to that a little bit too, Grant, that you know, and you having been formerly the dean in health professions, I've heard some comments and questions from students regarding their ability to be able to sit for licensing exams, and I've just been encouraging them as I hear from them that you know, they have to realize that the instruction we give is and the types of instruction and what we're allowed to do is set by an external agency, and we certainly are doing everything to follow those regulations that are put out there for us, and that we will, students as they complete the classes in the modified settings that we're offering them, will still qualify to sit for any licensing and registering exam. So I wonder if you could confirm that for me, just to make sure I'm not spreading misinformation.
No, you know, many of our programs, in order to make really competitive students for the workforce, our programs far exceed many of the expectations for the accrediting bodies as well as the licensing exams. So students, when they complete our programs, oftentimes far exceed those expectations. So there's two things that we can keep in mind. One is many of the licensing boards are also making modifications in order to help students complete on time and be able to pass and get their licenses. And two, many of our programs, the students will still be very well prepared for those exams because of all the extra work that our faculty do to make sure that they're prepared already. So even though we're having challenges this quarter, I think our programs are in a great spot to make sure students are ready for those exams and ready to enter the workforce at the time of completion.
Awesome, awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Grant and Paul. So our next question that I'm going to take is one from the Q&A. And this person is asking about emergency assistance. And they say, I've recently received an email that there was information about an emergency fund, the Olive Bridge Student Assistance Fund, which asks for documentation of the need. does the lease agreement, or does a lease agreement count as documentation?
Hi, Maggie. I'll take that one. Thank you so much for your question. The Olive Bridge Fund is an emergency fund, and anybody with a need for emergency type of funding can apply for that. They take it on a case-by-case basis. And so what you would do is submit your documentation with your discussion of need, and we will be talked to and interviewed in a case-by-case basis to help determine that need. So if you have further questions about that, feel free to contact me directly, or you can talk to Jennifer Falzerano because she will have just the same type of information that I do.
Thanks, Mindy. So our next question is one that was submitted via email. And this person is saying, I am trying to unregister from a class, but the system says I have a hold from last term. What should I do?
Hi, this is Matt Fadich again, and I think this is a great question. We have made a lot of changes to try to assist students as they transition into this term. One of the things that we did is we allowed students who had early registered to keep their classes even if they had a balance. This has created a couple of issues that we're working through. One of those issues is you can't drop your classes or add classes until you pay that past term balance. And if you want to drop a class without paying your past term balance, you can email asklane@lanecc.edu today or tomorrow. After that, you will not be able to drop. What you can do is email Bursar, that's BURSAR, @lanecc.edu, and tell them that you're trying to drop and you can't. This will document that you're trying to drop a class, and it will help us work with you on getting it corrected next week. A similar issue is students who do make payments to release their balance due holds. Normally, that doesn't get released until a job that we run every morning. Over this weekend, I will be monitoring that bursar@lanecc.edu email address, so you can email questions there. And we will be running that job to release holds over the course of the day. So the first thing that you should do after you make a payment is give it a couple hours and check again. You can also email bursar@lanecc.edu, and somebody will be monitoring that. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Our next question is about scholarships. And this person asks, many scholarships have a minimum credit load tied to them. What if I can't meet minimum credits or decide to take this term off due to my class offerings being impacted by the governor's order? Will I lose my scholarship?
Yeah, Maggie, I can take that one. I'm Eli Herr. I'm the Director of Financial Aid. Scholarships are tricky in that they are conditioned on what the donor or the underwriter has set up for the conditions of the scholarship. Unlike financial aid, where we have a lot of rules and regulations and clear guidance, I'm going to have to refer you to either back to the LCC Foundation or whomever you're receiving your foundation through. That may be the Ford family or the Goost White, but you'll need to contact them about your options and what you can do in order to maintain your eligibility and your funding and the terms of your scholarship. My understanding is that there's great flexibility right now and that donors are being rather generous with their enrollment rules, but you will need to contact them for further clarification about what your options are.
Thanks, Eli. So we also have a question about the performing arts. This came through in the Q&A, and this person asks, For the performing arts classes like choir, dance, theater, etc., will performances be postponed? And how do you think these types of classes on campus and on-campus events will look in the coming terms?
Hi, this is Jennifer again, and I'd like to address that. So the arts, yes, that has been something that faculty have been working very hard on, particularly the performing arts. As you mentioned, music, dance, theater, and faculty have been developing alternative ways of engaging in those activities and completing those classes, even though we're not able to have in-person activities right now. So as far as performances and events on campus, we will not be having any in-person events on campus during this term, but those performing arts classes are continuing and the faculty are working on alternative ways of doing that. So if you have specific questions about a specific course, please contact the faculty member or the arts division, and they'll be able to put you in contact with that person.
Thank you, Jennifer. I think that's a good segue into our next question, which is one that we received via email. And the question asks, what is the plan for commencement this year?
Hello, it's me again, Mindy. And our commencement, it would normally be June 13th, 2020, but we have made the difficult decision to postpone commencement. I know it's got to be very difficult for students, because I know that on campus, this is something that we look forward to celebrating with our students every year, to celebrate their achievements, to bring in family and friends and come together as a community and wish you well on your next step in your journey. But at this time, we have made the decision to postpone that. We will find a way to celebrate with you. It just won't be on June 13th. So please do stay tuned for updates, and we will get you those as soon as we can. Thanks.
Thank you, Mindy. Let's see, our next question is also one that we've received via email. But before I ask that, I would like to remind all of our attendees that the footage from today's town hall will be available to view over YouTube in the future, and we'll be sharing out a link to access that. I also want to share that a few of our questions that we've received in the Q&A were more specific to one person's experience or maybe program that they are in, and we have answered those questions by text privately. And so make sure that if you've asked a question and we haven't answered it verbally, that you go back and take a look, because we may have typed in an answer to you privately. Okay, so next we have another email question, which starts out very nice and pleasantly. This person says, "Thank you, instructors, for clearly putting effort and thought into providing a quality online learning experience in what are surely difficult circumstances. It is evident and appreciated. Is there any established expectation about the timeliness of posted class materials? For instance, can students expect lectures and assignments to be posted by at least the time the original class would have been held?"
Thanks, Maggie. Paul Gerald, Provost and Executive Vice President here again. It's a great question, and I first of all I want to thank the student that submitted this for recognizing what an effort it has been on the part of the faculty to move these courses to these remote offerings, And also, you know, I think, you know, just articulate that there's multiple ways I think that faculty have approached bringing their courses that were traditionally going to be face-to-face to this kind of remote setting. And because of that, there will be differences from course to course, from faculty member to faculty member, in how they'll approach delivering materials to students. Many faculty are using Moodle and delivering materials through Moodle. Others that are in the middle of moving into Moodle might be still delivering materials to students in different ways through other mechanisms. Regardless, there still is an expectation from me and the college that those materials, learning materials, will be distributed in a timely manner. All of you should have received a syllabus by this point from your faculty members for each of your courses. In those syllabus, it outlines not only, you know, the policies and procedures for the course, but there should also be outlines in there as far as what the expectations are for the schedule for the course for the remaining part of the term. In addition, this should indicate when and what types of assessments are going to be due to determine students' grades and performance in the course. So if you haven't received a syllabus yet, I would ask your faculty member in your particular course where the syllabus, if you could have the syllabus. I suspect that they've all distributed them. They just may not be real accessible to you yet, depending upon what modalities they're using. And then that would be the schedule that would be followed. And of course, we would expect that, and I'm sure that your faculty will give you the materials you need to be successful, to be able to keep up with the schedule that's been put out in front of them. It is possible that many courses have been modified in a way where, in reality, the published schedule or meeting times that you may have registered for in an in-person class become irrelevant. They may have moved the course entirely online, delivering it through Moodle. And in those cases, the schedules are going to be different, right? Whether you meet, your work is not going to be synchronous like it was before. It will be more asynchronous, where you'll be you know, asked to do something, and then there'll be a time frame within which you'll be able to submit that, rather than the instruction being, you know, during those times that were published. And in other cases, we have faculty that are going to be doing, just like we're doing here, Zoom teaching, right? And that then would be at the published times. So I don't think that there will be an issue. And, you know, again, the expectation is that you'll have a syllabus, you'll know what the schedule is, you'll know how it's been modified, you'll know what the expectations are for you to be successful in the course, and the faculty member will provide you with those materials in a timely manner to be successful. If you find that that's not the case for you, I would encourage you to, you know, reach out to your teacher to see what might be the issue. It might be something on their end. They thought it was there and it's not there. And if it becomes increasingly more of a problem, then you know, reach out to someone in student affairs or the dean in that particular area, and we'll make sure that we address the concerns when they arise. But we anticipate that you certainly will have everything you need to be successful this term.
Thank you, Paul. I want to do a really quick time check. We are at 2:45, and my hope is to get everyone out of here on time a couple minutes before 3 o'clock. And so if any of our attendees have been kind of sitting on a question that they want to ask, but they're feeling a little bit shy, now would be a great time to type that in the Q&A box so that we can try and get to it. In the meantime, our next question is one that was submitted via email. And this person asks, are we still being charged the $10 printing fee? If so, are we able to go to campus to utilize that $10 and print what's needed for class?
Thanks, Maggie. I can answer that question. I'm Deborah Butler. I'm Chief of Staff to the President, and I oversee retail services, which includes the Titan store and printing and graphics. It's a good question about printing. It's not we don't really have a safe way for you to come on campus and print right now. And so hopefully you have fewer printing needs because you're taking courses online. The $10 credit for students for printing each term is not actually directly assessed as a fee to students. It's part of the allocation of the overall tech fee that's charged to all students who enroll in courses. So that $10, instead of going toward printing, will go toward other technology needs that have arisen this term. Things like technology like laptops and Chromebooks and hotspots and other types of learning equipment that's been provided for students and instructors. And then we'll be ready to return the printing credit as soon as students can safely return to campus.
Thank you, Deborah. Our next question is, I think, a really important one. And this person asks, how will the college be supporting students' mental health during the COVID-19 crisis?
Hi, it's Laura again. And yes, I agree. It's a question that's on a lot of people's minds right now. The most important resource at the moment is the Counseling Center. So the Counseling Center is still offering appointments, confidential, no-cost appointments. They're using multiple modalities. They can do it by phone, Zoom, Google Chat and email, as well as Moodle. So if somebody's interested in making an appointment with a counselor, they can go to the Lane Community College Counseling Department website, and it has information about how to schedule an appointment using those different formats. So that's one very important resource. Also, the health clinic is available to help students with their mental health. So as I said, you can go to the LCC Health Clinic website for information on how to reach a provider by phone or with Zoom. The health clinic, as I said, also, we're hoping to expand telehealth services, to contract with a third party to offer expanded behavioral health services. That's not immediate, but we're hoping that sometime this term, that's something that we can offer as well.
Thanks, Laura. And while you're there, we've actually gotten a question that just popped into the Q&A that's also about the health clinic. And this person asks, is the health clinic open? I presume they're asking right now for getting a vaccine.
You can't get a vaccine at the health clinic itself right now because the health clinic is available for phone and telehealth appointments, but not in-person visits. But you can certainly talk with a provider through a phone or a telehealth appointment, and you can get referred to where to go to get a vaccine. So it's possible for the provider to write an order and send that in, and it's possible that they could have you go to a pharmacy or Lane County Public Health. So they can help you get a vaccine, but it won't be at the LCC Health Clinic right now.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, our next question is another that came through over email. And this question asks, are there any changes to grading for spring term?
Yeah, that's a great question about grading. So in general, grading for spring term is going to remain the same. However, we have extended the deadline to change our grading options for pass, no pass, all the way through June 13th. But it's important to keep in mind that some courses must have a letter grade to comply with their certificate or degree standards. So those will remain in effect. But if your course does allow a pass or no pass option, you will have that ability to change all the way through June 13th, or you can also change it to audit all the way through June 13th.
Awesome, thank you, Grant. Let's see. Next, we have a question on high schoolers. who may be interested in taking courses right now at Lane Community College. And so this person asks, can high schoolers take courses, and can they take the placement tests online?
Hi, that's me. Thank you, Maggie. You're doing a great job, by the way. I appreciate you. So yes, high schoolers can take courses through the regular channels. We don't offer College Now at this time because those are based at the high schools themselves. So you would be charged the regular fees for tuition, but through multiple measures and online placement, you should be able to get into the classes that you need, especially for summer term. So I would encourage you to do that.
Great. Thank you, Mindy. I'm going to stall for just a moment because I know that we have some questions about the bookstore that we're trying to do some kind of background research on before we answer them, just to double check and make sure that we share the right information. Let's see. I do want to remind everyone that the footage, the recording of this session is going to be available on YouTube after the fact, and there should be a link to that posted on the college's website. Okay, it looks like we may be ready to go with some of these bookstore questions. So one of our questions is, how should I contact the bookstore if I'm having some issues?
Hi, it's Mindy again. Thank you so much for your question. You can call the bookstore directly. Their phone number is area code 541-463-5256. You can also contact them through their online website. And I was just looking at the online website. They have an FAQ. I can put it up in the question and answer if you'd like. But I was looking at Art's question. Hello, Art, and thank you for your question. He said, if someone purchased a textbook but doesn't make it into a class, what's the deadline to return the books for a full refund? According to the online return policy, you have 7 business days from purchase for a full refund.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mindy. We got another question in the chat about folks not being able to afford their textbooks. And as Lane's OER librarian, I work a lot with textbook affordability issues. And so I have shared my email address with that person. It's writem@lanecc.edu. And I hope that you will email me and we can see what we can do for you if you're having a hard time affording your textbook. Let's see, I'm just taking a look at our questions. It looks like we've made very good time. It's 2:55 right now, and we have made it through the email questions that we had queued up. Let's see, it looks like we have one more question that just popped through in the Q&A. And so I'm gonna go ahead and read this one to kind of see us out. And so this person asks, what is the best way to avoid the detrimental effects of self-isolation at home? Is online communication really any substitute? I think that's a really good question. And maybe one that's going to be hard to answer, but let's see if anybody steps up.
Well, I guess that's me then. I am not a counselor licensed in any ways. I can barely spell counseling, but I can tell you that good self-care is good self-care no matter what environment you find yourself in. I find that the online classes that we're having, some that have Zoom face-to-face, some that have other interactions with others, that's really helpful for a person's mental health, but taking care of your physical health, getting enough sleep, eating healthfully, and getting outside of the house for walks are all very, very important. However it is that, and calling a friend, because you can socially distance and still call a friend, would be my preferred method. Now, I can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you that good mental health and self-isolation is on everybody's mind right now. And so I encourage you, if you are struggling with this, to go ahead and reach out to our counseling center as well. They are there to help you. Thank you. Thanks for your question. And stay safe and well. And drink water. Okay, that's it.
This is Laura again. I would echo everything that Mindy said. I would add wash your hands to the last thing she said. And one website that I think could be useful to folks is if you Google Active Minds COVID, then you'll find Active Minds is an organization focused on mental health and well-being for college students. And it has some very, very excellent information for students, but also for everybody right now, having to do with coping right now, particularly surrounding isolation, as well as what to do if you have a history of anxiety and depression and maybe need a little bit of extra support, or are feeling a little bit more anxious or a little bit more down during this time, which is very common. There's also links to crisis call lines. There are even more crisis options available now in terms of texting, calling, emailing. So as Mindy said, if you're feeling more than a little blue, more than a little anxious, make sure that you reach out right away by phone, text, email, whatever source, live chat, and get some help, because there's lots of help available locally as well as nationally.
Thank you so much, Laura. I think to wrap things up, we will have President Hamilton joining us again. But before I sign off, I want to say hi to Justin, my 6-year-old friend who is watching from home right now. So hi, Justin. And Margaret, here you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Maggie. Maggie, you did an awesome job. We really can't thank you enough. I especially want to thank all of our panelists today. And for those of you that are new to Lane, these are the types of folks you're going to deal with. They're wonderful. They may not have all the answers, just like myself, but we're willing to get the answers. So thank you so much. And students, your questions are wonderful. We are learning as we're listening to them. So I really thank you for taking the time to tune in today. So as we leave you this afternoon, I want you to remember some words of wisdom from Winston Churchill. Things are not always right because they're hard, but if they are right, one must not mind if they are hard. This term may seem very hard right now, but you're going to come out of this, and you're going to come out of this a lot stronger, because you're going after your dream of going to college, and it's the very right thing to do. So I wish all of our Titans out there listening today good health, peace of mind, and a very successful term. Have a great evening, and thanks for tuning in.